So hello and welcome to Are Your Beliefs Making You Bias? So I'm going to pre-frame this little episode today by saying they absolutely are. And the thing is, it's about understanding your actual biases and understanding that we are biased, to become aware a little bit about what it is that you do, because then that allows you to make more resourceful decisions and choices in your life. So that's what this is really all about, because are your beliefs making you biased? They absolutely are. But becoming aware of your beliefs and being able to have beliefs that are more resourceful for you, or changing your beliefs when you have a belief that is not resourceful for you, will actually allow you to create a life that you would prefer. So let's get moving on. So there's a beautiful saying by William James. William James was very, very interested in the unconscious mind, and he loved really dwelling into the working of the brain of the human. And he said that to perceive the world differently, we must be willing to change our belief system. Let the past slip away, expand our sense of now, and dissolve the fear in our minds. And that's exactly what I'm hoping to convey today. It's all about understanding, right, that when something isn't working for you, that you need to change your perception, that you need to change the way you view something, because if you keep viewing things the way you do now, it doesn't change, it doesn't make things different. And if you keep viewing the world the way you do now, things will always be the same. So in order to be able to see the world differently, you need to change your perception of the world, and thus by changing your beliefs, you do that. So in order to understand this, let's have a look at what a belief is, because it's really, really important that we understand what an actual belief is first, to be able to understand how we can actually change our beliefs. So a belief is an attitude or conviction about the truth of some idea or concept. So what that means is that it's something that we believe to be true. It's our truth. It's, you know, our truth around something being the way it is. And that's what we believe. That's what we've been brought up with. So we believe that all the time. So we have two different types of beliefs. We have core beliefs, right, which are conscious. So they're conscious, you're aware of your conscious core beliefs. And then what we have is what we call dispositional beliefs, and they are unconscious beliefs. And it's our dispositional beliefs that we are not aware of. So for instance, if you wake up in the middle of summer and you look outside and the sun's beaming, you have a dispositional belief. You don't have to think about it. Automatically you say it's going to be hot today, so I need to wear shorts and a t-shirt. So our dispositional beliefs, we don't really think about them. They're beliefs and ideas that we have around what something is. And we don't even think. Whereas our core beliefs tend to be more conscious, and we become more aware of it. Now, the important thing here is that if you begin to make your dispositional beliefs more conscious, you can become aware of what it is that you think, then you're able to change your situation a little bit more. Okay, and if you have any that are not working for you, that are unresourceful, that are creating bias in the wrong way, because there's nothing wrong with having beliefs, there's nothing wrong with having forms of biases around things, but the whole idea here is about whether it's working for you or it's not, and that's the important thing. So how do we form beliefs? This is really important as well. Beliefs are generally formed in two ways: by our experiences, so things that we've gone through in the past, okay? We go through some sort of experience, and then we have a belief formed around that, okay? And that can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a traumatic experience. It can be any experience at all. Or inferences and deductions, or, right, by, you know, looking at things happening and you go, well, when that happens, and that's going to happen, okay? So by inferences and deductions. But we start to form what we believe to be true. And sometimes we accept what others tell us as being true. And that usually happens when we're children. So our core beliefs are formed when we're children. But so are our dispositional beliefs. It's just that some of our core beliefs, because we think about them, we have an experience and then we think about the experience, or something happens and then we think about it and we make a deduction, or someone tells us, they tend to be a little bit more of our core beliefs. But our dispositional beliefs are formed during childhood as well. And our beliefs, according to Dr. Massey, are formed between the age of 0 and 7. These are also known as our imprint years. What that means is between the ages of 0 and 7, right, you tend to be like a sponge. We don't have what's called a critical faculty, and a critical faculty is that part of you that distinguishes between fact and fiction, what's real and what's not. And usually you can tell when a child's critical faculty tends to kick in, because then they start to not believe in things like Santa, in the Easter Bunny, all those sorts of things, and they start to become more logical. So a critical faculty is a logical part of you. And that doesn't form until around the age of 7. It's believed these days that it's actually happening quicker because kids are getting more intelligent. So you're virtually a sponge. So you absorb everything, okay? And most of our beliefs are actually created between the age of 0 and 7. So you can see that some of them might not necessarily these days work for you, but against you. Now, how do we use our beliefs? And this is really important. This is the critical part here of understanding. It's not about the belief so much, but how we use it. So a belief becomes a mental heuristic. And what a mental heuristic is a cognitive shortcut, a rule of thumb. And this happens literally instantaneously. So when something happens, we use our beliefs, our mental heuristics, our cognitive shortcuts, the rules of thumb that we believe to be true for us to actually make sense of the world. So our beliefs help us make sense of our surroundings in a quick and efficient manner. Since we cannot simply process all the information that's coming into us in detail, we have mental heuristics. We have cognitive shortcuts and rule of thumbs. Sun's out, it's summer, bright sunny day, it's going to be hot outside. That is a rule of thumb that we have as a belief deep inside our psyche. We form lots of different rules of thumb, lots of different cognitive shortcuts to make sense of the world. And this is what creates our biases, because it is according to those mental heuristics, those cognitive shortcuts, those rules of thumb that we have created, most of them being from the age of 0 to 7, that dictates how you actually see your world, how your perception of the world is. When I learned this years ago, this was an absolute game changer for me. And one of my absolute favourite quotes, and I talk about this quote all the time, was from Carl Jung. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. In other words, until you become conscious of your beliefs and whether they are working for you, you just basically are at the whim of these mental heuristics, these cognitive shortcuts that you have formed. And when something happens, you automatically go into one of these shortcuts to be able to make sense of the world. So here are some heuristics that we have. Availability heuristics, meaning that this involves making decisions based on the information that is readily available in one's mind. Really important. So according to what you believe to be true, will decide what decision you make next. Representative heuristics. In a case an individual is trying to decide if someone is trustworthy, they may compare the incident with other mental examples. So let's say you've had an experience with someone in your past who had certain characteristics and then they turned out to be untrustworthy. You might meet someone who has similar characteristics and all of a sudden you're going to think they're not trustworthy as well. Not necessarily true. Affect heuristics. This involves making choices that are influenced by emotions that an individual is experiencing at that moment. That's also important to understand because depending on your emotional state, when you see something, you may make a decision based on that. And that decision is usually based on your experience of the past of when you were in that emotional state also. The fourth one is satisfying heuristics, meaning this is the decision-making strategy wherein the first option that fulfilled your criteria is selected, even if there are better alternatives available. So in other words, if you're a first option that you're given, if that satisfies your strategy for why you're wanting to make that decision, you might be presented with other options, but because that first one fulfilled your needs, your values, it fulfilled your emotional state at that time, you might not look at any other option. So you can see that it's really important just to understand, because this now makes your decision-making process a lot more clearer, a lot more cognitive, and a lot more conscious. And you're not being driven by autopilot. And I know this also well because I was on that autopilot trajectory all the time. And all my decisions were basically being made out of affect and satisfying. So by understanding that, it doesn't mean that I don't sometimes make decisions from there, but I actually understand what's happening and I'm able to actually point that decision or that choice in a more conscious manner. So let's have a look at how this happens. So we're looking at the NLP Communication Model. And it's really important to understand that when something happens, we take information through our five senses. So our eyes, what we see, our ears, what we hear, our touch, right? And that could be doing something or just through our skin, our sense of smell, and our taste. And what happens is whatever we see out there, it comes flying at us at about approximately, now there could be more, I've heard different fields of study around this, 11 million bits of information per second. Now, we can't handle 11 million bits of information per second. So what happens is we first delete everything that we believe is not important to us. Then we distort it to make sense. And then we generalize it, saying this is like this. Now, how do we delete, distort, and generalize? That is, one of the ways we do that is based on our beliefs. So if you believe something, if you believe you can't do something, guess what? Your unconscious mind will see an opportunity and will say, well, I'm not going to show you that opportunity because you believe you can't do anything else. So it completely deletes it. If it doesn't delete it, it will distort it so that you can make sense of it. So then it fits into that mental heuristic that you have. And then it generalizes, it groups things together. There are other things that happen as well, but our beliefs are a very big core importance around this, because even our values are held together. Our values being what is most important to us, are held together by a set of beliefs. And then, of course, whatever we take in, which is only about 126 bits of information per second, we're leaving a lot of stuff out there. So anything you see out there in the world is your perception. There's no way it cannot be. We form an internal representation, and that coupled with our state, and our state is not emotions, it is our state of mind. So whether you're feeling happy, you know, whether the thoughts that are going through your head are thoughts of generosity, joy, happiness, or whether you're focusing on, or, you know, all the things in your life going wrong, coupled with your physiology, the way you hold your body has a direct impact on your brain. So if anyone's wanting to know a little bit more about that, just have a look at some YouTube clips on power poses. That then creates your results next. So are your beliefs making you biased? 100%. And as I said, it is not about so much, you know, those beliefs being right or wrong. It's about having a look at whether some of your beliefs might possibly, right, be unresourceful. And if they are, then you need to have a look at them. So our beliefs create what are called cognitive biases. And cognitive biases is the tendency of people to perceive information based on their own experiences and preferences and may not reflect reality. We have 300 cognitive biases. 300. So that is a lot of stuff that you are being biased about. A lot of ways that you are being biased. So it's about understanding you can research cognitive biases all over the internet. I am going to talk about the most common cognitive bias that exists, but there are 300 of them. So your beliefs are making you biased, and becoming aware of your beliefs, you become aware of the ones that are resourceful, the ones that are not resourceful, and then what you can do is you can nurture the beliefs that are resourceful and work on the unresourceful beliefs, and of course then your biases will be more resourceful to what you want in life and creating the life that you desire. So the most common cognitive bias is what we call confirmation bias. One of the most common cognitive biases is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when a person looks for and interprets information that backs up an assumption or theory they already have. So in other words, whatever you believe to be true, you will find information to back that up. If you listen to something on the TV, if you listen to the news, you will interpret bits and pieces of the news to back up what you believe to be true. That is why everyone has their own opinion and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And that is why we saw what we saw over the last 2 years with COVID-19. We had two ends of the spectrum of people believing in things and not believing in things, because whatever you believe to be true, you would have actually found information to back that belief. Does it mean you need to change your belief? No, absolutely not. This is about awareness. But this is also important for you to become aware that what you believe, you will conceive, because that is what you will see. That you can't see anything else. It's just the way it works. So if your life is not where you want it to be, I would highly urge you to have a look at what part of your life isn't quite working, and then examine your beliefs around that part of your life. Examine what's going on for you. If you need to get external help, do so. If you can do it on your own, great. but it's important that you are understanding who you are so that when things don't work out, you can then examine. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about knocking yourself. It's none of that. It's about creating beliefs and biases that now work for you. So I hope I answered the question. Are your beliefs making you bias? 100%. Are they going to keep making you bias? 100%. It's all about awareness. All about awareness. So thank you for listening and watching again today. And as always, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, now on TikTok as well. And of course, my podcast, which some of you will be listening to, Business Secrets for Change Makers, named after my Facebook group, which is also Business Secrets for Change Makers. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at admin@sandramadafri.com.au. It's been a pleasure having you here. Enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed what I've brought you today. And remember that your beliefs will always make you bias. So make those biases work for you, not against you. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, bye for now.